What's up, guys? Just taking a walk out here, getting some fresh air. Where are we at with the crypto cycle? Well, we're not done yet, in my opinion. Regardless of if Trump is able to execute on the strategic reserve plan once he gets in office here coming up later this month. And I'm going to tell you why. A lot of this stuff is pulled back. If you look at a lot of the layer one smart contract platforms, a lot of them have pulled back from their all-time highs. Now, the two that are kind of close to their all-time highs that are kind of obviously in the top 20 would be BNB and SUI. Now, if you look at a lot of the memes though, like let's say a lot of the memes on SUI, they've pulled back in the last month and a half. You've had this pullback on the memes. You've had the similar trajectory. And while, you know, it's painful to kind of go through this stuff is pulled back, and then the narrative rotated to fake AI, which we knew that fake AI was going to be a major narrative this cycle. And then even that's burned off. So then it's like, well, what's the next thing? Be prepared for Bitcoin to potentially go down to 85,000, maybe even 80,000. And it's could be this kind of shocker, almost sell the news once Trump gets actually officially in office and they start doing some work and stuff like that. But that's just general sell-off and just where people are at just in general. You know, you can't say that people aren't getting beat up with inflation. Insurance costs are out of control. We've got all this stuff going on in LA, you know, all these different fires and stuff. And they were saying there are 8+ fires. And, you know, I have a few friends out there. And then when I was on the arena, there was people out there saying they're potentially going to be getting evacuated. They don't have the fires contained completely. And it's just unbelievable. I guess the winds got up to 100 miles an hour. And today I think the wind is going to get up high there. So everybody, hopefully people can stay safe. And hopefully they can get this thing sorted out. But it's just, and obviously that's Los Angeles. That's not the entire United States, and that's not the entire world. And crypto is 24/7, 365, and it's all over the entire globe. So we can't necessarily point to one event per se with that situation that's going to kind of mess up the crypto markets. But in general, there are a lot of people in Southern California. There's more people in Southern California than there are in all of Australia, which is pretty shocking to think about, because I'll show you, has, you know, Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, Brisbane, the Gold Coast. These aren't small cities, but Southern California has more people than all of Australia, which is pretty nuts. Now, all that being said, whatever happens with that, or whatever happens with kind of the narrative of you know, illegal immigrants and what they're going to do with the border and these different things, I think there's more pressing issues, I guess is what I'm trying to say, than the crypto market on, you know, day one. And they said, you know, Gary Gensler's going to get fired day one kind of thing, but he's already said that he's going to step down, he's going to resign. And you know, it seems like the whole Department of Government Efficiency with Elon and Vivek, they've already kind of went to work, and they've already got several employees kind of working on this to, you know, try to straighten things out and, you know, hit the ground running kind of thing. So I think there are going to be positive things that are going to happen. And these are pro crypto guys. All these things are positive. How much of that is already baked in? That's always hard to say. It's always hard to say how much of this previous move on up to $108,000 Bitcoin was kind of that already baked in. And that's already happened. Now, out on Reddit and various different platforms, people have done polls if they think that the crypto cycle is over, that the bull market is over. And some polls were even saying as high as 60% of the people thought that, oh, this bull market's over. I don't think so. I previously told you guys that we could potentially have a drawback and then kind of get our footing again in 2025 here, and then climb our way up to $120,000 by March. And that I personally think that that's going to be about the peak, and that when it comes to April, May timeframe, that's going to be kind of our bang out kind of alt season. Things are going to kind of get wild again, kind of like we had, you know, the memes were popping off hard, obviously mid-November. All those memes have kind of pulled back once again, like I said, on a lot of these different layer ones. You know, there's a few exceptions, a few Solana memes that are have kind of a fair amount of traction right now, and then some of the memes actually on XRP, like XRP Army was one of them, and you guys probably saw that previous video where I was sniping these memes and stuff like that on firstledger.net. I always try to keep my hands on all these blockchains, understand what's going on, what's the culture, kind of what's happening. Now, all that being said, if they do the strategic reserve, obviously everything kind of goes out the window if they're able to kind of implement that, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're not really able to kind of take action on that in 2025. And that's not FUD, that's just, I think that there's more pressing matters. There's going to be more pressing matters. It's going to be hard to allocate the money to that because hopefully they can negotiate the Ukrainian, the whole war situation with Russia and Ukraine. Hopefully they can get that sorted out early. That's a more pressing issue. Obviously the situation in Los Angeles is tier 1. That's the most important. I mean, we got active burning fires that needs to be addressed, and then we've got this border issue that has gone ongoing, but I don't think I mean, the damage is kind of already done with that. They're not going to be able to just sort of get everybody out of the country. I think it's more going to be getting criminals out and kind of trying to seal up the border, what we currently have in place. Now, if you kind of saw some of the stuff, the Biden administration was, you know, actively selling the border wall and taking it up north and selling off pieces, starting bid at $5 per piece. Just absolute treason, absolute, just completely just trying to derail everything that's being done. You know, it's just absurd. I mean, how could you think there's no country in the world that's just going to have some kind of open border policy like that? And again, if you have something that's somewhat limited access, it becomes more valuable. And this is part of the reason why it's like, you know, it's harder to get it, you know, it's harder to get in the country and stuff like that. So all that being said, and then, you know, there's these other kind of, I guess, diversion topics, you know, as far as Canada becoming part of the United States, or, you know, Greenland, of us purchasing Greenland, or Greenland becoming part of the United States. All that's interesting. It's fun to think about. You know, that's kind of other things. But all in all, again, I'm still sticking to my prediction. And oddly enough, and if you go back, and this was before Christmas, this was before the first airdrop with ZENA, that I was saying this whole March time frame, people were saying, I don't think your prediction's high enough. But if you've been following me long enough, my predictions, and this is part of the reason I don't have more followers, I don't give you these whacked out predictions, you know, like BitBoy saying $27,000 Ethereum last cycle. Ethereum's going to have major issues, partially because over time people were thinking it was going to potentially scale faster. I never really thought that it was necessarily going to scale faster, because it's hard to kind of get things switched over in a very quick time frame with that type of ecosystem. And what Ethereum, you know, has done has been very important, you know, for the crypto sphere. But all in all, it's going to be hard to switch over and stuff. And then you have all these other chains that have taken that, sped it up, and moved forward way quicker. And it makes more sense that if you're going to be on that type of platform, why wouldn't you just launch on Avalanche, or why wouldn't you just launch on Arbitrum, you know, or BNB or something. I mean, you can make a case that you wouldn't want to launch on BNB if you thought it was too centralized or something, and you know, somebody could sit there and say, well, it makes sense to launch on Arbitrum, or it makes sense to launch on Avalanche or whatever. So that being said, the memo's out. It's kind of hard for these different projects to kind of keep up this guise of saying they're launching on Ethereum and they're going to launch some kind of entire ecosystem, or they're going to launch a you know, a metaverse and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's just, it's kind of like gigs up with that. You know, you're launching on Ethereum, we don't believe you, you know, kind of thing. It's just, so obviously the limitations have been reached there. Hopefully it does scale some, and hopefully fees go down, but I just think fees are going to be down because people aren't really trying to interact with Ethereum for the most part. And if you're going to interact with Ethereum, it probably makes more sense to maybe do it on ICP and use CKETH, Chainkey Ethereum, or to be on one of these other quote unquote layer 2s, but really they're just their own chain. So, you know, all that being said, I don't think everybody's kind of waiting for this move because, you know, as far as like the Ethereum price, people are waiting for Ethereum to move to kind of like kick off this kind of quote unquote alt cycle, and it's not happening. And I think this stuff is going to sink potentially a little bit further. We feel a little bit more pain before we kind of can come out of that. That's my assessment. And ultimately, and a lot of people don't really want to talk about this because the metrics have kind of said otherwise and stuff like that, but the United States and Canada and these different countries, they're not really in a good situation employment wise. Same thing, I see these videos coming out of China, and it's like there's been 700,000 tech employees that have been laid off, like in China. So there's a lot of people that maybe allocate to some of this other stuff, but people are getting beat up with inflation, insurance costs, and you know, their employment has been compromised. So what do people kind of go into? And then the AI takeover of something that would actually do something, whether that's graphic design, whether that is speeding up coding and stuff like that. This is taking shape. So they're kind of expecting one person to do the work of what 3 people maybe would have done, you know, a few years ago, kind of thing with AI. And I'm going to make a separate video on that of where I think AI is and what I see with the outlook on that. But all that being said, where are we at the crypto market? And if you look at Colin Talks Cryptos, CBBI index, we're hovering around 80 right now out of 100. We haven't kind of hit that sort of upper channel, and I do expect that to happen kind of before the March time frame or thereabouts, and then to have sort of that alt cycle. And the rest of 2025, I do expect it to be, there's going to be opportunities, and you're going to be able to move around, but you're going to have to be nimble, and you don't want to get caught sort of in the bull trap on the other side of the cycle. That's my assessment. Now, if they start stacking, if nation states start stacking Bitcoins and going heavy into it, that's a different situation. Does Michael Saylor get liquidated this time around because he has like 400,000 Bitcoins now? It's hard to say. I thought he was toast in 2022, completely way upside down on his investment. He keeps taking out debt to buy more Bitcoins and pulling his average up. And he acts like that he can't get liquidated, essentially. But, you know, at some point you're like, well, what's MicroStrategy? What's their main business initiative outside of just buying Bitcoins with the debt and then trying to like lever that asset and other assets to get more debt to buy more Bitcoins? It's I don't, you know, this is an interesting strategy, and we'll see. It's either, obviously, for a minute, you know, he looks like a genius, and, you know, props to him. He didn't get liquidated in 2022. I thought that was potentially going to be our market bottom in 2022, is that when he got liquidated, then he loses coins, and then you know, then that's kind of the end. He didn't get liquidated. So, you know, things came back up. But again, we got started out early this cycle, a year early, kind of a year ahead schedule. And, you know, as far as the mining difficulty on Bitcoin, it's at all-time highs. Energy costs aren't getting lower for anybody. And at the end of the day, those mining outfits need to not make the mistake that they maybe made previous cycles. They're going to have to take profits at some point. They're going to have to sell some of that. How that all shakes out, I can see 50-50 as far as economy, as far as what could potentially happen with this administration. It's sort of a give take, give take, give take. At the end of the day, I think you've got to somewhat look down the list on CoinMarketCap. I'm not a maxi. I'll never be a maxi. I just, you know, I just think that it's dangerous in some respects. I can understand being obviously allocated heavier to something like to Bitcoin, but then to just completely be on it and then, you know, that's your only ticket and stuff like that. I think that works if you're coming in with large amounts of money. But if you're trying to make kind of major moves, major multiples, 5x, 10x, 20x, 100x, obviously you could get 5x off of Bitcoin. But past that, you're not going to hit absolute bottom, absolute top. And, you know, that being said, that's where I think we're going. I'm sticking with that $120,000 Bitcoin in the March timeframe, alt season, April, May. People cash out some of that money for vacations for the summer, what have you. And, you know, we still have opportunities and stuff like that. But, you know, at the end of the day, I'm not seeing at this point these kind of upper levels where 175,000, 225,000, 250,000. I'm just not really kind of seeing that. All that being said, leave a comment below. What do you guys think? Where are we going with this cycle? And I think we have a good runway with the memes here, and any kind of project has to drive value back to the asset. There's only a few exceptions to that. I mean, you know, because it was just, you know, OG stuff that people were able to buy up off the floor, and it sort of perpetuated itself, like Doge, for instance. But any other memes that have popped out, ZENA's the same, you know, it's much the same. I've got to drive demand to ZENA, which, you know, is something I'm actively doing. And, you know, we did with the airdrop and stuff like that. Some people sold their airdrop. I looked at the wallet amounts, and a lot of people haven't sold completely out. They sort of sold part of it out. And since the peak, and similar thing that's happened to FWOG and this other stuff, is the peak coincided with the peak of Solana, which makes sense. So we were clear up at $260 Solana in mid-November, mid to late November, and then it's like, okay, we've burned off and we're at $180 Solana. So I think we regain our footing with Solana. Some of these memes, people kind of like, they kind of get this re-entry point, stuff like that, and then we have this kind of additional surge later on. Anyway, guys, like, comment, share, follow me on all social media at Brian Phobos, YouTube, Instagram, Steam, at Twitter, Hive, DTube, Arena, Blurt, everywhere.